Kelloland Media Group presents The Remarkable Women of Kelloland.
Good evening, I'm Angela Kennecke.
And I'm Bridget Bennett.
And I'm Sophie Heineman. Thanks for joining us. Over the next half hour, we're going to introduce you to all 4 of our nominees for our Remarkable Women contest.
All 4 are trailblazers in their communities as they improve the lives of those around them.
You'll also hear from the people who nominated them and why they say this is quite the group of remarkable women.
The first woman we want to introduce you to is someone who has helped thousands of people turn their lives around.
Julie Becker is the executive director at the St. Francis House. Kaylee Anderson nominated her for the contest.
In her letter, she described how Julie's work has touched more people than she can ever imagine.
Some of you may know her as a coworker, friend, or even family member, but to me, she is my boss. 4 years ago, I truly never understood the hard work and dedication put into career. But Julie showed me so much more. As I began working for her and around her, I began to understand the hardships of working at a facility, dealing with those who suffer addictions or homelessness. She is the reason I have an amazing job. She has also taught me valuable life lessons, even outside of the workplace. But there was one that stuck to me the most: never give up on something that I am passionate about. This has stuck to me to this day. I am beyond grateful to call Julie my boss, but most importantly, I'm glad she has taught and shown me to help people who need it the most.
And now we are proud to introduce you to Julie Becker.
Most of the guys are at work. Oh,
I'm here.
you're here.
I am.
You got your ID?
I do.
Did you smile?
This is the busiest season of Julie Becker's career.
Oh, nice.
She's moving into a brand new building, serving even more people as the director of the St. Francis House.
You might actually like that, Barry.
But she still greets all of her guests by name.
And that's kind of what my job is to show them that they truly have abilities and that they are good people. They've maybe made some bad decisions, or life circumstances have led them down the wrong path. And so I'm here to help them know that they're valued and they're appreciated. And that's why we call the people we serve at St. Francis House guests, because they're a guest in our home.
You're happy.
Yes, I'm very happy.
John will be moving into one of our family units, aren't you?
Every day, Julie helps people looking for a new path in life.
About 97% of our guests right now have some form of addiction, and that it's not an easy path. It's not an easy job.
I already made one bad decision.
Right. So now you got to turn it around, and now you got to make 2 good decisions, right?
Yep.
Right. Cool.
But with a little love,
Yes.
I'm here making sure that they know they have a warm, safe, and sober home to live in, where they get fed well, and they probably get some tough love and compassion that they haven't had for a long time.
and some hard work.
This is not a handout by any means. This is completely a hand up. They have to work for this. I'm not going to just give them a job. They need to work to get that job. And I believe that we walk alongside the people we serve.
Julie knows transformation is possible.
My heart and what they did for me, that brought me back. That's plain and simple. What they gave me a life and soul. Very grateful.
Dan now works for the St. Francis House after going through the program himself.
And now today, Dan has been sober for over 4 years.
A life forever changed.
Oh, Ben got his. Oh, he didn't smile. I told him he needed to smile.
From this remarkable woman who continues to care.
Giving back. She's taught me a lot about that so far.
Kaylee Anderson has worked for Julie at the St. Francis House for 3 years.
She's just always giving a helping hand to not only me, guests, but other staff and other people in the community.
She nominated her for this special award.
I think she's an excellent example for selflessness. Not only is she known for the St. Francis House, but I personally know that she gives through United Way. She aids people with disabilities in finding jobs.
She says she'll continue to serve.
If we reduce the rent so that you guys can get ahead and get some other debt paid off, and then you guys get a nice little nest egg saved.
By cheering on every step in the right direction.
Even the littlest success. It could be someone being sober for 10 days, and that's the longest that they've ever been sober in their life. That's a success.
Our next nominee has dedicated her life to helping victims of domestic abuse. Sherry Castine is the executive director of the Family Crisis Center. Tara Raymond nominated Sherry for the Remarkable Women contest. In her letter, she described the courage it took for Sherry to open up about her experience with violence so she could help others.
It took tremendous courage for Sherry to choose a life of serving others. At a time when our society and various cultures had a victim-shaming and blaming outlook on domestic violence, Sherry chose to use her personal experiences to drive change. Over the past 3 decades, Sherry and her daughter have made great personal sacrifices. These sacrifices have created programs that will have a sustainable impact throughout the region and state for years to come. It is hard to calculate the actual number of lives that Sherry has helped change and save, but please know it is thousands, and that makes her truly remarkable.
And now to tell you her own story, we're proud to introduce you to Sherry Castine.
My passion in life has always been victim services, and that really was at the break of a tragedy in our life when I myself was a victim of domestic violence.
Nearly 35 years ago, Sherry Castine took her 15-month-old daughter and fled from her abusive husband.
We were living on the streets, just no place to go, didn't know where to go. And so we lived on the streets at night when it wasn't safe to go home.
Without a safe place to go, she escaped one monster, only to be victimized by another.
My daughter, when she was only 15 months old, was abducted, brutally raped and beaten, and left in an abandoned car.
Her daughter fought to survive for days. After months of recovery and legal battles, Sherry and her daughter started over.
After the trial of the offender that hurt my daughter was done, then I moved back to my hometown of Frankfort, South Dakota, and really spent some time just healing and trying to think of what was next.
As people around her learned of how she'd escaped her abuser, the answer for her future came on its own.
People started coming to my home. We started doing protection orders around the kitchen table.
Her first sign of just how many people were quietly searching for help to escape from violence.
Back then, 35 years ago, there weren't victim services, there weren't victims' rights. It was all through the criminal justice system.
Since then, Castine has worked to change that, creating domestic violence shelters all over the region, starting with the Family Crisis Center in Redfield. That quickly gained the attention of South Dakota's leaders.
Went out to Pierre and worked with Governor Mickelson and was really active on the implementation of South Dakota's first crime bill. I chaired that for the state of South Dakota, and I remember thinking, I don't have any formal education, and what do you want me to do? And he's like, I want you to do exactly what you've been doing the whole time that you've been testifying for this bill, to give victims a voice, and you've got a voice that needs to be heard.
Every time a survivor tells their story, they're essentially reliving that past pain, so that takes a lot of courage and resilience and strength for her to do that day in and day out.
Tara Raymond works at the Family Crisis Center in Sioux Center, Iowa. It's a program Sherry has spent the past 2 decades building up.
We went back every year in all of our stats to count how many children she had served over her 20 years, and that was over 2,000.
So this new program out here takes 35,000 calls a year for the state of Iowa.
Over the last 5 years, she initiated a new statewide call center that's helping her reach even more people.
The number of people that she has helped, the number of lives that she has changed and saved is just thousands upon thousands.
But Sherry says she's never satisfied, and her work to help end violence will never be over.
Not when I know there are more mothers and daughters in their car at night, laying in a parking lot, not knowing their services. My passion in life is, how do I reach those folks? What more can I do?
Well, coming up, we introduce you to our next nominee.
I sat there at the castle for many days, obviously, and thought about what can I do? A daily affirmation.
We will show you how this remarkable woman has devoted her life to inspiring the next generation right after the break. Welcome back to our Remarkable Women Special. Our next nominee has many titles to her name, from Sergeant First Class to Coach to Mother, all of which inspires Rachel Hangman to help younger generations. Donna Rumbaugh nominated Rachel for our contest. In her letter, she described Rachel's passion for volunteering across her community.
She has dedicated her career to mentoring, inspiring, and challenging our youth to be the best that they can be. She travels to area high schools to do presentations on anti-bullying, the Be the Change program, and as an inspirational influence. 4 years ago, after multiple IVF procedures, they were blessed with a son who has special needs and requires full-time nursing care and will need a liver and kidney transplant in the future. She developed Lunch with Lincoln to provide meals once a month to families at the Sanford Castle. Despite this, she continues to lift up area youth, making sure their grades are up, their attendance is good, sometimes picking them up at home and driving them to school, coaching them in sports and in life. She is truly an inspiration.
And there are even more ways Rachel is giving back to her community. Here is her story.
Got plenty of time now, let's go, come on. I was on my way up to SDSU my sophomore year of college, and that's when I found out the planes hit the buildings.
Just weeks after 9/11, Rachel Hangman went with her younger brother to meet with an Army recruiter and decided to enlist.
Keep fighting, good. Our cousins, my husband, my brother-in-law, my baby sister, my daughter. It is truly a family tradition.
A tradition Rachel is now working to start in many families around the region.
I get to recruit where I went to high school.
She spent 17 years as a full-time recruiter in the Army National Guard, helping more than 250 Keloland students find their passion in the Guard.
I can't put people in the military and tell them that it's going to be sunshine and roses and expect people to leave their families if I don't have to go through it myself.
She's gearing up for her husband's second deployment, this time as a mother of 4.
My husband deployed in 2010 and 2011 to Afghanistan, and we knew when he came home we wanted to try some more for another child. We tried for 5 years.
After several miscarriages, IVF, and meeting with fertility specialists, Rachel and her husband were told it was unlikely they'd be able to have any other biological children.
It's horrible. It's a nightmare. And unfortunately, a lot of people in society, once you start having those problems, you realize how common it is.
But then their miracle happened.
1 in a million, baby. Like, this is amazing.
They found out they were pregnant with Lincoln. Rachel kept on recruiting and coaching girls basketball and tea all the way up to his arrival.
She was in the beginning stages of labor with Lincoln, and she got on a school bus and went to state tournaments to coach her basketball team.
Rachel's mom and nominator, Donna Rumbaugh, says Lincoln was born just a few hours after her team won the game.
When he came out, the doctor said he was having a hard time holding his oxygen. They're like, we're just going to take him upstairs to the NICU just to kind of track him. And then I came upstairs and they noticed, they're like, his abdomen looks a little large. We're just going to run some scans and see how things are going.
Lincoln was diagnosed with a rare kidney condition called ARPKD, which led him to the fight for his life when he was just a few months old.
In between our 3rd and our 4th appointment that day, Lincoln aspirated in the hallway of the castle and turned blue and stopped breathing.
They spent the next 2 months in the ICU.
Lincoln coded on us a few times. So I brought him back because that's what they do. They're amazing up there. We're so blessed to have that facility.
Sparking a forever bond between Rachel and the Sanford Children's Hospital.
I sat there at the castle many days, obviously, and thought about what can I do? How can I make these people feel better?
She's now organizing Lunch with Lincoln every month, providing families at the castle with a meal from TC referees right in their room.
I didn't want to leave my kid. I did not want to leave his side. And so I can imagine other people don't want to leave their child either.
Lincoln's medical concerns are far from over. He will need a kidney and liver transplant in his lifetime. But Rachel says she will continue to work to serve others throughout his journey.
He's impacted so many people, and God put him here to do that for us.
Despite all the bad things that life throws her way, she seems to figure out a way to turn them around and make them positive and use them to help other people.
Give me kisses. Can you give me kisses? Mwah. Thank you.
Coming up, we introduce you to our final nominee.
And so I write statements for WHO every year on critical issues in microbiology.
How this remarkable woman is changing the medical field across the world after the break. Welcome back to our Remarkable Women special. Patricia Tilly is our next nominee. She's paving the way for future generations in both law enforcement and science careers. Patricia's daughter, Melissa, read her mother's nomination letter.
My nominee is a remarkable woman because she's influenced hundreds of students and children with her contributions throughout her life, including her family. She began her life in Sioux Falls. She still lives in the same home she was born in as an infant. She began her career as the second female police officer for the city of Sioux Falls. She worked for the city for more than 8 years in a time when women were not in such roles. This experience gave her the strength and experience to seek a degree in science, also an area that was not highly populated with women. She's a role model for all and continues to influence and ensure quality for everyone from Sioux Falls to across the globe. She truly demonstrates that anyone can be what they want to be, and someone from very humble beginnings in Sioux Falls can make a global difference while remaining dedicated to her community, family, and friends.
Now that is just a short list of all of her accomplishments. We're proud to introduce you to Patricia Tilly.
I was born and raised in Sioux Falls, and I was a female police officer back in the early days when there weren't a lot of us, and decided that I was going to go to college.
After serving 8 years in the Sioux Falls Police Department, Patricia Tilly made a major life change for her whole family.
I was on the police department for 8 years before I went to college, so I was a non-traditional student and had 4 kids while I was in college and worked full-time.
It was very normal for her to be playing around with trinkets at the kitchen table while she's trying to figure out what bacteria this is.
Tilly completed her biology degree at the University of Sioux Falls.
I was always intrigued by microbiology. It's one of the areas that's very hands-on still to this day. And then I was always fascinated with genetics, so that's why my doctorate is in microbial genetics.
She went on to get a PhD in biomedical health science from the School of Medicine in Vermilion.
When she'd go on the weekends, the 4 of us would always fight over who would get to go with her.
Her daughter and nominator, Melissa Tilly, says throughout her mom's education, she also learned how to streak plates and count bacterial colonies.
You have 4 little kids that are, crawling all over the place, and you're like, Mom, what is that? And she would actually take the time and show us the slides, because as she was teaching us, she was teaching herself and preparing herself for her own exams.
Look at this. This is classic.
Yep.
There's E. coli.
She is always willing to help us. I got her number within 2 days of class.
Tilly continues to share her passion for microbiology in the classroom.
In South Dakota, I've probably trained over 300 lab professionals in the last 10 years, and so I have students almost everywhere.
Ooh, you can smell that one.
She now runs the master's program at the University of Cincinnati, all from her home in Sioux Falls.
Last year I had 300 students in my microbiology class.
But her reach in the field of microbiology touches far more students.
I've had my own textbook now for about 10 years, working on the 15th edition of it. It is the top diagnostic microbook in the world. It actually is international. I have a Korean edition with me as well as mine. And
she's a bit of a celebrity at microbiology gatherings around the country.
When I was with her out in Philadelphia, we actually had a kid come up and talk to me and be like, oh my gosh, your teacher is Pat Tilly. Do you think I could get her to sign my book?
Tilly is currently the chair of the National Microbiology Advisory Committee, a subsidiary of the World Health Organization.
So I write statements for WHO every year on critical issues in microbiology.
From the coronavirus to the Ebola outbreak and SARS, Tilly says microbiologists are intimately involved in the fight against many diseases.
But we're kind of hidden. Most people don't know who we are. They know who doctors and nurses are, but they don't realize the impact the lab people have on their diagnosis.
She wants laboratory students everywhere to know they can also make a remarkable difference in the world.
It's fun to meet students and explain to them that, you can come from wherever and you can do things like write things for the World Health Organization and write textbooks.
Stay with us. We are not done hearing from our remarkable women nominees.
We asked all 4 about who influenced them and what advice they have for younger generations.
Hear their answers after the break.
Welcome back to our Remarkable Women special. We asked all of our nominees to answer the same 3 questions. who helped you grow into the leader you are today.
What was the biggest challenge you overcame?
And what advice do you have for young women who want to make a difference?
Professor Perkins, he works at the University of Sioux Falls, and I think he inspired me to be able to step out of my comfort zone, and I think that probably was really what got me started and really got me into the science field, so I'd probably say it was him.
To be honest, I think it's every single person that is in my life, from my kids and my husband to my in-laws to my fantastic team that I have here at the St. Francis House.
I have 4 amazing parents, and they've been pretty awesome in guiding me, supporting me, yelling at me sometimes when I need it, and making me laugh all in the same time. But
I would say working for Governor Mickelson back in the 80s he was such a large stature of a man in his appearance and in his work, and he would always teach me things as I was making reports.
Having been told your child might not survive, and trying to come back from that is bar none the biggest problem, or biggest, what was the word you used? The biggest challenge I have ever been through, yes.
The biggest challenge was that fear of how to go on after the abduction and trauma that my daughter encountered, was what was next. And how were we as a single mom and daughter going to heal from everything that happened?
When I was on the Sioux Falls Police Department, there was only 2 of us. And so that was really challenging. And I worked with 143 male officers. And embarking into an area where you wasn't very well accepted, and learning how to manage that.
It's losing my mom at a very young age. She was 72. Wonderful lady, called her every single day of my life. And yeah, that's the hardest part, is that I don't have her here with me today.
Be true to yourself and remember where you came from, remember what you want to be, but most of all, remember if somebody's watching you at all times. Little kids are watching you. They're learning so much from you, but
trust yourself, and you're going to make mistakes. Not everybody's perfect. You got to take the growing pains with the good things, and don't be afraid to try something that you've never done, because you never know. Somebody might walk up and ask you if you want to write an internationally known book.
Just believe it. Believe that you can do it, and start. It takes one step, and then the second step, and you just keep going.
And most important is work together always as a team, because we need to work smarter instead of harder, and share the resources and the wealth that this community offers to all of us.
One of these women will be named Kelloland Media Group's Women of the Year and win a trip to New York City to attend the Mel Robbins Show.
We will announce the winner this Friday. She will be among more than 100 women from all across the country who could be named Nexstar's Media Group's Woman of the Year.
Thank you for joining us for our Remarkable Women special. To learn more about each of our nominees, head to KELLOLAND.com. Have a great night, everyone.